Do you think that the public is blaming Democrats or will continue to blame Democrats on gas?
I don't think the public is blaming Democrats. I think they're blaming the oil companies.
But they won't take that out on your side on the midterms even if you pass this bill and prices don't get better.
No,
or the perception is that
why would we say
things are
that?
better.
I don't think what you're saying is making very much sense. If the Republicans stand in the way of us freeing the consumer of the stranglehold of big oil, you think they're going to blame that on the Democrats? You think that?
Oh.
I don't know about you, but to me, Nancy is the one who's not making any sense. The journalist there sounded perfectly normal to me with his question. Ape Nation, what's going on? It is the first day of May 2022. It's Sunday night. And look, we had a shit week last week, no doubt about it. We're probably going to have a crappy week coming up. There's a couple things that we have lined up. The Fed's going to be speaking. We have some earnings coming in, some big companies. Doctor Strange is coming out Friday. I want to try to concentrate on a lot of the good things, not the bad things, if we can. And look, I understand right now everyone is handling the situation differently as far as what's going on in the market. I got to say, me personally, I have so headed up to here with the administration. Everything that they seem to touch just comes to ruin. The fact that they printed almost $6 trillion last year, and as you look at the usdebtclock.org, which is a site anybody can go to, as of right now, May 1st, 2022, we are just at about $30.5 trillion in U.S. national debt. Federal spending is just over $6 trillion. And each person in this country is in debt almost $100,000. Now, if you think that's a good job done by the administration, my hat's off to you. But I don't. So when we come back from the intro, we're going to talk about what we can expect going forward, why I'm not so worried about it with my AMC shares. I'm hoping that I hedge correctly. We'll talk about all that and more. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
cue the speeder.
This is the way.
All told, 5.7 trillion laid out. Now, certainly, some large amount of spending was necessary to avert catastrophes like hospitals. 872 billion went out to unemployment assistance. You know how much of it went to improper payments and fraud? Well, they don't have a solid figure. That would require accounting. But the low-end estimates are 163 billion in fraud. The Inspector General says it's likely higher than that, and ID.me, an insurance fraud prevention service, estimates the number is closer to 400 billion. That's almost half of it.
So that little clip was from Friday night, Bill Maher's monologue, and he was talking about all of the money that was printed in 2021 to help us through the pandemic, and how out of the $800 billion that was set aside for unemployment, they are estimating that up to half of it, $400 billion, was defrauded from the federal government. And remember, this is just for unemployment fraud. We're not talking about any of the other loans or grants that were given out fraudulently. The number could be in the trillions. And what is the effect of doing that and being so laissez-faire with cash like that and money? Well, it devalues your currency and therefore creates inflation, which turns out to not be transitory, but be real. And we're dealing with it right now. But let me tell you something else that bothers me even more. This article from Friday says Biden's $33 billion Ukraine aid request hits early snag over COVID funding in Congress. President Biden's request for $33 billion in aid to Ukraine hit a snag on Capitol Hill, where a dispute over immigration threatens to hamstring assistance to Kyiv. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki on Friday doubled down on the president's request to pass more COVID-19 relief and Ukraine aid together. And I don't know how much more COVID-19 relief we need. I don't know how much we need to be sending to Ukraine right now. More. I saw we sent them heavy artillery. Germany's still sending them weapons. So we are still providing the Ukrainians with the means to fight and using them as cannon fodder against the Russians for our proxy war. And at the same time, we don't have enough money for Gary Gensler and the SEC to look into what's going on in the market right now. It's a disgrace that the administration is more focused on protecting Burisma employees and their Ukrainian friends instead of funding the SEC so they can properly do their job. And I get it. I don't want to sound totally naive, like, oh, all they need is the budget over at the SEC and that will take care of everything. I'm totally not saying that. It's more the principle. I understand that Gary Gensler, possibly even with a huge budget, would still have his hands proverbially tied because of who all his friends are and the lobbyists that are behind the people who put him in power, and that Gary's going to need to eat in the future. So he'll have to find somewhere to go after this is over. So he's not trying to create any waves, and I understand that, but that doesn't mean that it's right. All right, so let's talk about the week coming up. We know we have earnings starting tomorrow. We got Berkshire Hathaway who's reporting, Expedia, BlackRock, some big companies, MGM. Tuesday, Pfizer, AMD. Go right down the list all week. Etsy, CVS, Moderna. Big companies are reporting. So hopefully we see good numbers back this week. Now, we also know that the Fed is going to be meeting midweek, possibly the 3rd or 4th. I don't know if they've nailed down that date yet. But Powell says taming inflation is absolutely essential, and a 50 basis point hike may be possible for May. I am hoping, as well as a lot of you guys out there probably, that these prices and this 50-point basis hike have already been baked into the fabric of the market, and we won't see too much of a drop-off. But be prepared for anything. And if there are going to be margin calls tomorrow, I know there's a lot of assumption out there that margin calls are coming. Whether that happens tomorrow morning or not, I can't tell you. If it does, that could be very good for us possibly, because if they do get margin calls, it might start to force them to close their short positions. All right, guys, we're going to leave it there for tonight. I am still working on doing the fourth turning series. I am trying to get everything with my work scheduled out so I can keep certain nights open, but that might take a week or two to figure out with the new place. As always, guys, I want to say thank you for all the likes, the views, the comments, my new subscribers, my OGs. We'll try to get back in the swing of things this week coming up. We are here to break the wheel. This is Ape Nation. I'm the Massalorian, and I'm out.